Hello, everyone, and welcome back to It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day. I'm Cyrus Webb, joined by my co-host, Dalsimer, who's the author of the book you guys see here and the title of the show. We welcome you guys tuning in on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and on X. Going to bring in our friends over on Instagram so they can be a part of our chat as well. If you guys are new to us here, welcome. Glad you all could be with us. I think you guys are going to really enjoy today's show. It's based on a very powerful chapter in Allie's book we're going to be getting into here in just a moment. And we're now live on the Amazon Live platform with It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day. If you guys are new to us on Amazon, welcome. And we have picked up quite a few followers over on Amazon. I appreciate you guys as we're on our road to 50,000 over there. If you don't follow us already, make sure you guys hit that follow button in this corner or down below. You also will see the book that this show is based on by Dalsimer. It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day. You all can get it in print, the Kindle edition, as well as the audiobook as well. I'm going to be talking to Allie about a great chapter that's a reminder for us, no matter how old we are, how we can be able to make a difference. But Allie, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderfully, Cyrus. I'm so glad to be here with you today.
I am excited as well. And I want our audience to know, make sure you guys stay tuned to the very end. I have a great surprise for Allie that Allie knows nothing about. So I'm excited about that. Council 28, hello to you over on Instagram. Allie, before we get into today's message, I do want to let our audience know we were live with them in North Carolina last week, at least I was. And next week, I want to let you guys know I'll be doing the show from Louisville, Kentucky. But I had someone mention something to me in Fayetteville, Allie, which is why I'm bringing this up. And that is that it seems like these messages are so timely. What has that been like for you? I'm sure you probably have thought that too. I know I have, especially when I was reading today's even. It's very interesting considering when we're doing this, how timely these messages are even after you've written them.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's an expression that the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
And yeah, even though the book was, it's been written a little bit ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I put this version out last November. Um, the reality is that in many ways, the more things change, the more they stay the same, because human nature and society still face all the obstacles. People die, people are born, people go through conflicts, they get divorced, they go to school, they have all these life changes, starting new jobs, whatever. And that's what the book is talking to. It's how to handle the vagaries that life puts in your way, and those don't go away. And yeah, we were talking briefly before the show today about how interesting the timing of this particular chapter is. So
Mm-hmm.
um, it's been, when you have a moment where things are like, oh, I never thought of that, and in the same moment you think, yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
That's kind of how that is for me.
I love that. Renee Flagler, hello to you over there on IG. Danielle Music, hello to you as well. Glad you all could be able to join us as well. One other thing I want to mention, Allie, before we get into today's show, and that is you were mentioning that quote, the more things change, the more they stay the same. But one thing I can say that's been interesting for me in the time we've known each other is your series of changes. So what has that been like for you to think of, the changes you've made in your own life, both internally and externally since the book came out?
Yeah, that's that's great, Cyrus. Thanks for asking that, because it's really interesting, and we've talked about this like when we first started talking together about how we're just the worst at taking our own advice, and so I put this book out as life advice for my kids, right? It's like for life advice for you, not for me.
Right.
But I have embraced it. I have followed these steps. I go back all the time and I read these chapters, and I have, the subtitle is A Journey to Self-Discovery. And I've been taking those stepping stones and following my own journey to self-discovery. And I really feel like I'm blossoming into the person that I was always destined to be. And
Mhm.
I'll be honest, I'm happier now and feel more at peace in my own skin than I have for as long as I can remember, to be honest.
Wow. That's powerful to say, Allie.
It's
And
powerful to feel.
yeah, yeah. And but I feel like you too. I feel like this. In fact, my mom and I were having a conversation yesterday, and she was saying how she has never seen me this happy before.
Mhm.
And I thought, That's really something because I consider myself fairly happy person, but I think being able to walk in it, I think is the difference that people are seeing, and I think it
Mhm.
means so much to us, but also to others as well. So, Allie, I'm going to turn it over to you so we can get into today's message.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Today's chapter: Woman, first denied a soul, then called mindless, now arisen, declared herself an entity to be reckoned. Suffragette statue, 1921. When my grandfather died in October 1978, my grandmother had never driven a car, never written a check, never eaten a hot meal with her hands, think pizza, hot dogs, etc., never worn pants and certainly not shorts, and owned no flat shoes. Her identity and lifestyle revolved around her husband and his vocation. When they married, she gave up ice skating, painting, ceramics, and all other activities not suitable for a married woman. Instead, she became active in the church, joined a women's circle, baked, made jam from summer berries, knitted scarves and mittens for donation, and supported her husband in his ventures. My grandfather didn't force or even ask her to change her routines. It's simply what most women did when they got married in the 1920s. And they both accepted this societal norm. For them, and for many others, the relationship worked. That wasn't universally true. In the early 1900s, the suffragette movement was born. Women around the world protested, lobbied, and suffered for the cause. And it paid off. In 1920, the United States granted women the right to vote, proving that a single individual can make a meaningful, and in this case, global difference. The original suffragette, Emmeline Pankhurst, was ridiculed, imprisoned, and told to quit innumerable times. She didn't. Dissatisfied by the societal norms of her day, she worked long and hard to effect a change. This is how the women's movement began. The lesson? If you are unhappy, make a change. And this applies to all social and political movements, past and present. It applies to our individual lives as well. If we are unhappy with who we are or where we are in life, we must be willing to make a change and pursue that change despite the difficulties we inevitably will encounter. As John F. Kennedy so famously said, one person can make a difference, and everyone should try.
Love that. There's so much in here. And when I was initially preparing for it, Allie, I thought about three different things that I think our audience will really appreciate. But one I want to say on a personal note, what you and I were talking about, how ironic it is that we're talking about the death of your grandfather in October 1978. Here we are in
In
October.
October.
And I was just sharing with you, today's my brother's birthday. He was born in 1978. I thought that was
Yeah.
that's crazy. So 47 years ago, we're talking about. But the three things I want to talk to you about, the first one, though, Allie, that really struck me, and I think for our audience, if they really think about this, how many of us do things just because everybody else does it? What was that like for you to think about in writing this chapter when you talk about your grandmother, that the things she did wasn't things she was told to do? She just did them because that's what everybody did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think you're right. We go along to get along a lot of times, and a lot of times we don't really think we have a choice.
Mhm.
For my part, I was raised in the midst of the civil rights movement, the environmental movement, the women's movement. My mom was a member of NOW, the National Organization of Women, and we,
Mhm.
you know, took me on marches, and my dad took us to Earth Days, and so I was raised in an activist mentality. That's not true for a lot of people. And I think that there are generations who are raised in that. I think the generation now, the people who are in their teens and 20s now, are going to be raised with that activist mentality because they are being forced to be active, to stand up for their beliefs.
Mhm.
But in the in-betweens, when things are good and there's not a lot of strife in the world, or not a lot of strife in our personal lives, we do what's expected of us, and we go along and get along, and that's the kind of thing we do. But that's the heart of the journey to self-discovery, is not just falling in line. Now, for my grandmother, she was happy, but when it got to be later in life, after my grandfather died, he died in 1978 when he was 73 years old. And my grandmother, who was born in 1908, lived until 2002. So she had decades after he was gone, and she started redoing some of those things. She started finding her passion again for ceramics and other things, and started getting back into that a little bit. And I think that the lesson there is lean into what you love, lean into what your passions are, and ignore what you're being told to do is the right thing. In terms, not right thing in terms of right or wrong, but in terms of what your life is supposed to be.
Right. I love that. Brandon Coleman, hello to you over there on IG. Glad to have you. And I appreciate the hearts over there on Amazon as well. Want to make sure I'm acknowledging you all. Let me reset real quick, Alan, and say for those who are just tuning in, welcome. You're watching It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day. It's based on the book by my co-host, Ali Dalsimer. You all can see the book there. Also, for you guys joining us on the Amazon side, you guys can get it in print. You can get the Kindle edition. Even you can see it there in Spanish. And the audiobook is there as well. But we're talking about the importance of this reminder about the difference we can make. And that's going to go into my third point, Allie. But the second point I thought about with this particular message is don't give up when it gets hard. You mentioned, of course, the suffragette movement in the book. You just mentioned you growing up in the civil rights during that time. So many people were put in situations where they could have given up, where some people did give up, quite honestly, but there were others who didn't, even when things got hard. How does that reminder stick with you when you kind of think about where this quote comes from, but also the difference that can be made if we don't give up during difficult times?
Yeah. So I don't know if you've ever read the Lord of the Rings books,
Mm-mm.
but you haven't? They're great. They're great. But there's this line when Frodo and Samwise. So the premise of the book is there's an evil master and there's a ring, and they have to go to Mount Doom, and they have to destroy the ring of power, because the power corrupts, and the absolute power of it corrupts absolutely. And society will be destroyed, and harmony will be lost. And on the journey, which is a difficult and treacherous one, there's a line where Samwise Gamgee says something to the effect of, and I won't necessarily get the words right, but he says, I think about the stories that are told and about the heroes and their adventures, and I think that's what the difference is, because they had opportunities to turn back and stay safe, and they didn't. They continued on, and doing it is hard. And I think that's the difference, right? The people who don't give up, the people who go through those sufferings, they're the ones who effect the change that enables the people behind them to push things forward. It's never the people who are suffering who get the benefit, right? It's like Martin Luther King Jr. said, I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you. Right? Yeah. Because the people who put themselves forward, the Emmeline Pankhursts, who make things happen, they don't see the rewards of that. They're not the ones who finally get the benefit of those things, but they do it anyway. And that's what makes them heroes.
Yeah, such a great thing. And that leads perfectly into the third thing that I thought about with this particular chapter, Allie, and that is the power of one. Yeah. A lot of times I think we think, and maybe because society has told us, is that one person can't make a difference, even though we have so many examples that show that's not the case. How has that message helped you to know that even if you may seem to be alone, that you can make a difference if you're willing to keep going?
I think we're witnessing a real life example of that right now, to be perfectly honest, with Greta Thunberg and the flotilla. People will come. She's leading that effort. She is the one who is doing that, and she is suffering for it. And it has not been easy for her or the people who have joined her. But that's the thing. This is the thing that people who want to oppress never tell you. They say one person can't make a difference. And in the absolute, that's true. One person can't make a difference. But the problem that they don't want you to fix, whatever that is the situation can be changed by one person, because that person is a wedge and there will be other people with them. Greta's not out there on a ship by herself. People have joined her. There's been a whole flotilla. And that's the thing. Martin Luther King Jr. wasn't out there standing alone. People, he had to be the point and the lightning rod. But people will congregate, and that's what they don't tell you. They don't tell you that because that's how one person makes a difference. Emmeline Pankhurst started this movement, and to be honest, it kind of didn't work out exactly as she had originally planned. But women came together, and some men came together to support. And through that one person, so one person can make a change because they can inspire others, and they can start a movement and a wave that others will glom onto. And I think that's how one person can make a difference. So yes, people say one person can't make a difference. And in the absolute, that's true. But it doesn't work in the absolute in the real world, because there will be people who will come with you.
So true. And I think too, just taking those three things that I took away from this chapter, Allie, the thing for our audience that I would say to them, that I'm going to get your thoughts on this too, is just because something hasn't been done before, it doesn't mean you can't be the one to do it.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that it's going to happen overnight, as this message that Allie shares in the book, I think really displays. But if you don't give up, it can happen. And I've been told sometimes I'm too much of an optimist, Allie, but I really do believe that. I remember growing up and my grandmother telling me that I could do anything. And I said to her, and this is one of those vivid conversations I had with her, and I'm talking when I was 7 or 8, so I was young. And I said, anything? And she says, if you work hard and don't give up and keep the faith, you can do anything you want to do. And I heard her. I didn't fully embrace it, but I believed what she was telling me was true. And I think, that is the whole thing. I think, you have to have that belief, like that you talk about in this chapter. I think for all of us, but we'll never know if we give up. What do you hope, Allie, people take away from this week's message, especially when it comes to the power of one and what all of us have it within our power to do?
I think it was Henry Ford. I could be wrong on that, but someone famous said, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, either way, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. That's not a book. That's not a quote I included in my book, but it is one that I tell my kids all the time. Yeah. Because the power of positive thinking is a real thing. Manifestation is a real thing. And if you have a vision and you really want something to change, whether it's in your personal life or whether it's in your neighborhood or whether it's, globally, whatever the scale is that you feel emboldened and empowered and impassioned to change, go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is nothing changes. But the best that can happen is you can make a positive, substantive, long-lasting difference that other people can benefit from, or that you yourself can benefit from. And I hope that's what people take from this. There are some people who are going to be just fine changing their lifestyle to do whatever. But I will say my grandmother, even though she did that, she was still pretty fiery, right? Like she got involved in the ladies' circles and the church groups, and she was like, she knitted. I know this sounds so strange, but she knitted these hats and mittens. I took boxfuls of them to the local women's shelter, House of Ruth. They were so grateful for them because, winter time, and these are, the House of Ruth is a safe space for mostly battered women and their children who are fleeing abusive situations. And, she made a positive difference. And it was just a quiet form of activism that suited her.
Yeah.
And by contrast, Emmeline Pankhurst didn't want to do it that way. She wanted change for all women everywhere. And both paths are valid. Both paths are important. And I say this so often, but there is no right or wrong way to follow your path. And I hope that people take from this that whatever your path is, whatever your passion is, just go for it. Because that's what makes the difference.
I love that. It's such a great reminder. I want to say hello to Let's Talk Catering Service. Hello to you over there on IG. Where Reed 68. Hello to you as well. Again, a great reminder for us in this message. And I think if you guys came in late, don't worry. No matter what platform you're watching us on, you'll be able to catch the replay. But again, the quote was, "A woman first denied a soul, then called mindless, now risen, declared herself an entity to be reckoned." And I think, again, for all of us, as we kind of think about that, the difference that all of us can be able to make in the world and the example we can be to others as to what's possible, I think is so important. Again, you can get your copy of Allie's book, It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day, right here on Amazon. Again, if you're watching us on the Amazon platform, it's either on the side of you or down below on the desktop. You'll see it down below us here. For those of you joining us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, there's a link that will bring you guys over to Amazon to get your copy of it. Allie, another great message. Let our audience know how to stay connected with you and how to sign up for your newsletter.
I will say one more thing in terms of that quote.
Yeah.
Woman first denied a soul. Women were told how to behave. And I think it's really important to not let anyone tell you how to behave. You do you. Mm-hmm. I'll just say that. I'll just leave it with that. Yeah. And if you want to follow me or find out more, go to my website, alliedalsimer.com/newsletter. You can sign up for my free newsletter. October is Mental Health Awareness Month, so tomorrow's newsletter and the one that comes out on the 18th will focus on mental health. Tomorrow's is how small things can make a huge, huge difference. Mm-hmm. Some things everybody can do 5 minutes a day, super easy, and it can make such a big difference. Also follow me on Instagram, and I've got a new podcast coming up with my son called So What's Your Process?, where we talk with creatives about what they do and how they do it. And Cyrus is going to be a guest, one of our first guests. His episode will air on October 18th. So go to Instagram, follow us on So What's Your Process? And you will get inside skinny and firsthand news on that. So
love it. Congratulations again to Kyle and you on the new podcast as well. Allie, another great message. Looking forward to joining you next week from Louisville, Kentucky.
I'm looking forward to it as well. And thanks everybody for listening today. I hope it was helpful.
Yeah, I hope you all found something helpful. Until next time, thank you all so much for being with us here for It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day. We'll talk to you all soon. Take care.